AITAH for answering my underage sister's question about God, although my mother strictly forbids it. I.F. 25, grew up in a conservative Christian household. When my father suddenly died 4 years ago, I took care of everything related to his death. In doing so, I found out that he lied to my mother, my siblings, and me about almost everything throughout our lives and ruined us financially. We didn't notice because we loved and trusted him. It was the worst time of my life. First my father died and then the man we thought he was. And #X200B. After that, I swore to myself that I would never end up in a situation like this again. I began to question everything in my life, including my beliefs, which I have never questioned out of habit rather than real conviction. And #X200B. For the first time I read the entire Bible and other religious books such as the Koran. In short, that made me an atheist. When I told my mother that I was an atheist, it ended in a huge argument and a lot of yelling from my mother. To this day she cannot accept my views. I don't force my views on her or make fun of her beliefs, even though they sometimes take on really absurd traits, e.g. that you are not allowed to read fantasy books like Harry Potter. Nevertheless, I keep it to myself and don't say anything if she tries to convince me to be a Christian again, otherwise it will end in an argument. And #X200B. She made it clear that I am forbidden to speak about my atheism in her home and that I must never mention the subject to my underage siblings. And #X200B. On my last visit, my little sister, 8, told me about her religion class and asked me what I think about God. I have seen the terrible effects of lies and I cannot bring myself to lie to my family. So I told her the truth that I don't believe in God. And #X200B. When my mother found out, she freaked out. She says, yelled, I have no right to undermine her parenting. As long as my siblings are minors, I have to accept her parental decisions, otherwise I am no longer welcome in her house. She had such a difficult time because of the death and the lies of my father, and if I were a good daughter I would not take away the last good thing that was left in her life, her family. And #X200B. The friends of mine who have kids themselves think I'm a bit of an asshole. They claim that my mother has the right to raise her children in her faith, and since they are not my children I have to accept my mother's rules. In addition, my mother suffers so much from the death and the lies of my father that I shouldn't make her life harder and should just avoid answering these kind of questions. And #X200B. Since I get guilty easily when it comes to my family, I want you to know AITAH for answering my sister's question. And #X200B. Edit 1. Age and gender. And #X200B. Edit 2. I should have mentioned that, to be completely fair, my mother fears that I have too much of an influence on my siblings because of the relationship we have, and she might be right. My mother has always struggled with mental health issues, probably depression, but I'm not an expert and she refuses to see one. I tried to shield my siblings from it, so I was a little more involved in my siblings' lives than an older sister usually is. For the first year after my father's death, my mother was mentally unable to take care of my siblings, so I did. That formed an even stronger bond between us. My mother knows that she can't prevent my siblings from learning that people have other beliefs, but she thinks that the mere fact that my siblings know that I don't believe can turn them away because they look up to me. While I know this, I just can't stand lies or dishonesty in my life. I feel like I'm physically ill when it comes down to it, so I can't bring myself to tell lies or be dishonest when asked directly. Edit 3. Some think I'm trying to convince my sister to become an atheist. I'm not trying to do that. I just said that I don't believe in God. When my sister asked further, I only said that not all people believe in God and that I am one of them. She thought that was strange, but then compared it to her school friend A, who is Muslim and believes something different than the rest of her friends and is not allowed to eat gummy bear because of this belief. She asked me if I'm still allowed to eat gummy bears and I said yes. She responded that she is glad to hear that, as she always feels sorry for A about the gummy bears. Then she started talking about her friends and the topic was done. In my opinion, it wasn't a big deal for her. Not the asshole. Catch 22. You're not allowed to talk about your atheism, but you also can't lie to your little sister. Not the asshole. Your sister will figure out at some point that not everybody in the world has a religion. You didn't tell her not to believe in God, you just told her you don't believe in God. Your sister already has an inquiring mind. Lying to her isn't going to stop her thinking. I am religious, my husband isn't. We have kids together. I've explained about my beliefs to my children, but also explained that not everybody believes the same thing. If my children decide that religion isn't for them, I suppose I will be a bit sad. But I'm also raising them to think for themselves, and I don't believe that decent people are disqualified from the good place simply because they don't have a religion, and terrible people get to avoid the bad place simply because they have a sincerely held religion. Not the asshole. On the one hand, parenting is hard, and it's very confusing for an 8-year-old to get surprising, opposing viewpoints. This isn't gonna make your mom's job easier. OTOH. That was gonna happen sooner or later. At some point, your sister will be exposed to the big world out there with people with very diverse viewpoints. Best to be prepared sooner than later. Your mom can only do so much to control that, and restricting Harry Potter is really dumb. It's your truth. Your mom shouldn't forbid you from speaking truth. This is a dumb game. The more restrictive your mom is, the harder she risks this backfiring at some point. Not the asshole. Your sister asked you what you thought about God and you told her what you thought. You didn't tell her that she had to believe what you believe. You didn't force her to become atheist like you. All you did was answer her question honestly. Your mother's reaction makes her the awe. All she had to do was tell your sister that you have the right to believe whatever it is you want to believe, the same way she does and the rest of us do. If your mother wants to raise your sister as a believer, then it's her job to convince your sister that God exists. Not the asshole. I'm so sorry that religion is such a point of tension in your family, Op. If your mother had any sort of confidence in her faith, she would know that knowing atheists exist is not a threat to your sibling's spiritual development. You didn't tell your sister that God doesn't exist or that she's foolish to believe in God. You honestly and appropriately answered her question. It's not like your mother can insulate your siblings from the existence of non-Christians forever, nor should she. Not the asshole. The problem here is that your sister is old enough to ask and would know if you were dodging the question. This could result in her pestering you for an answer and not letting it go. Remind your mother. Little sis is old enough to ask. She is also old enough to be a pain when I dodge the question. I do respect your parenting decisions, but you put me in an impossible position because of what we found out with Dad. As a result, I can't lie to them because I don't want to hurt them. Maybe we should sit down and come up with a list of acceptable answers for situations like this. If you are still reading religious texts, I'd recommend the Mishnah. It's an interesting read on how they interpret the Torah, Old Testament. Not the asshole. You weren't undermining her parenting, you were answering a question honestly. My only concern is that your mother is going to try to double down on religion with your siblings. Not the asshole. People wonder why atheists often have a strong dislike of theists. This is why. People like your mother go practically insane over religion. What does she think this would even accomplish? Your sister will eventually learn about atheism and other religions, it's inevitable. Am I the asshole for choosing my nephew's pregnant girlfriend over my sister's boyfriend? I have 4 siblings. Mary, 40F, Stella, 37F, Rachel, 28F, and Amp. Mike, 31M, estranged with Rachel and Amp. Me. My wife, 29F, and Amp. I, 29M, got married on Labor Day weekend and the venue was capped at 48. Which was 1/2 the normal capacity if we wanted dancing. We are in Canada with more restrictions. We didn't know our capacity included the servers, photographer and amp. DJ, so we had to cut 6 more from our final list. My sister Stella is divorced, dated a few years, and then met someone about a year ago. We live in a CA, US border area, and he lives across the bridge. She went to stay with him for a week in the winter, and then for 3 weeks in June. I've chatted with him a couple times on video chat. He came over when our border opened, but I was too busy to meet him. He was originally invited before we had to cut the final 6. Our sister Mary just found out her son, M19, and Amp, his girlfriend, F18, of 6 months are pregnant. I'm not close with my nephew, and I just met his girlfriend a few weeks ago, but since they're pregnant I see her as a permanent part of the family. So I invited them and cut Stella's boyfriend. 2 weeks before the wedding I texted Stella to tell her that her boyfriend was unable to come because of the capacity restrictions. When Mary found out my nephew and Amp, his girlfriend tried to give up their spots, but I had made my decision. When Stella found out I saw our nephew and Amp, his girlfriend, as a package deal over her partner, she replied to me pointing out all the other siblings' partners on both sides were invited but not hers and said, "I guess I know where I stand." I thought this was passive-aggressive. Rachel and I are closer, so she was a bridesmaid. Her 3 daughters were flower girls, and her boyfriend's 2 daughters were as well. My son, 7M, was the ring-bearer. My wife had a lot of bridesmaids and I needed to even out my side, so Mary's husband was also a groomsman. And it was a no kids wedding except for the wedding party, so Mary's 2F and Stella's 7M kids weren't included. Mary, her husband, and our parents talked to me. Everyone was upset. Without talking to me and just talking to everyone else, Stella rescinded her RSVP. When I tried to talk to Stella, I told her that I didn't think we are that close and our nephew's girlfriend seems like a nice girl. I asked if she was jealous of our nephew's girlfriend or if she was upset that she wasn't invited to the bachelorette party. Neither was Mary. She told me I wasn't listening to her, I was being an asshole and amp. That I should fill her spot with someone closer to me. As far as our relationship goes, I'll call her if I'm stuck for a babysitter. Our sons are the same age and really close. And I asked her to co-sign on my mortgage. She couldn't, but I wouldn't describe us as close. The only time I really see her is when everyone's at her house. She has a space that fits us all and we end up there when our parents are in town. We talk but I don't feel like I know a lot about her life. Am I the asshole? Edit, we didn't just ask Stella to co-sign on our mortgage. We asked as many people as we could to help us, including Stella's ex-husband, who is still very close with the family. When she was explaining to everyone how she didn't know we weren't close, she used it as an example to show how we were. So this didn't make her more close than any of the other people we asked. I asked her to back me up on the biggest financial liability of my life, and I drop my spawn off at her house whenever I can't be bothered to find someone else to do it, but we're not close. You are the asshole. Totally, toujours ta. As far as our relationship goes, I'll call her if I'm stuck for a babysitter. Our sons are the same age and really close. And I asked her to co-sign on my mortgage. She couldn't, but I wouldn't describe us as close. So, you'll contact her when it benefits you, but other than that, you want nothing to do with her? Lol. You are the asshole. Wait, she is good enough to babysit and more than good enough to co-sign your mortgage but not good enough for your wedding? Yeah, you are the asshole, a massive one. Family events are gonna be so much fun now, aren't they? You are the asshole for the way you treat Stella like your piggy bank and free childcare and nothing else. As far as our relationship goes, I'll call her if I'm stuck for a babysitter. Our sons are the same age and really close. And I asked her to co-sign on my mortgage. She couldn't, but I wouldn't describe us as close. The only time I really see her is when everyone's at her house. She has a space that fits us all and we end up there when our parents are in town. We talk but I don't feel like I know a lot about her life. You are the asshole. You are close enough to have her as your child's keeper, and ask her for a giant financial favor, but not close enough to invite her very long-term significant other? The kid-free part 1 do understand. But you are close enough to your sister's not very close son's pregnant girlfriend you just met within the month. Of course you're the aw. You blatantly showed your sister where she stands in your life. Free bank and emergency kiddie care only. You owe such a giant apology here. You are the asshole. I mean, you say you don't even know the nephew's girlfriend that well and that the nephew and girlfriend were fine giving up their spot, but you had made your decision. Plus you're fine with asking her for favors, but then tell her you're not that close? But someone you barely know merits an invitation over her partner. It just seems like you're going out of your way to make a point to her, and I can't tell why you felt the need to be this cruel to her. And #X200B. When I tried to talk to Stella, I told her that I didn't think we are that close and our nephew's girlfriend seems like a nice girl. You are the asshole. Your next to last paragraph told the whole story. Not only are you the asshole, but you appear to be a user as well. Be honest, you used your wedding to spite Stella because she didn't co-sign your mortgage. Grow up. I'm usually your wedding your rules, but in this case, you are the asshole. Majorly. You tried to force your sister to come entirely alone because you didn't know her boyfriend that well. All for a nephew's girlfriend that you don't know at all because she's pregnant. Yeah man. Your whole family is upset because that was a shitty thing to do. Maybe you don't know your sister that well because you treat her like this. I wouldn't want to talk to you either. Am I the asshole for confronting my friend about her dating preferences? This happened a while ago, but I still think about it. I used to be in a group chat with 3 of my friends. 2 I work with and 1 I've known for a while now. One night in the group chat I had a disagreement with the one I've known for a while. Let's call her Karis. That night Karis was complaining about how the men she likes never text her or go any further than friendship. Karis is a black woman who only dates white men. This is a fact that Karis has mentioned herself. I was unsure what to say, so I suggested maybe she date other men who were not white. Her immediate response to that was, "Black men are usually rude and inappropriate toward me." She then said, "Also, you know how well it went with James. James is an Asian man she went on one date with who ended up not being that into her." I told her that 1. I never said you had to date white men, and 2. that I was little uncomfortable with the fact that you so quickly just dogged black men. She continued by saying that that's been her experience and that although she give everyone a chance, she always ends up attracted to white men. She also said white men in general are easier to manage. At this point I feel like she was contradicting herself. She is saying that she give all people chances but also just explained why she wouldn't give black or Asian men chance. I told her that white men have been just as inappropriate and that it was a little odd that she allows them to get away with it. I didn't mean for this to become an argument or to cause tension, so I ended the convo by saying that she should evaluate why she has this bias towards white men. After that night she didn't respond as much to the group chat, and when she did she would only respond to things my other 2 friends said. I wanted to give her space, but it went from a few days to weeks. I asked my 2 other friends if they heard from her and asked one of them to check in to see how she was feeling. My intentions were to gauge her headspace before reaching out to her myself. My friend Kayla, fake name, said she'd reach out. About a day or so later Kayla texted me and our other friend from work separately screenshots of a conversation she had with Karis. Apparently, Karis has really disliked the way I've been treating her over the whole course of our friendship and that this argument was the last straw. This was shocking to me because we have never had a fight or disagreement before this. I thought everything was fine, and from what I can remember she has never told me that I was treating her badly or that I was being a bad friend. My 2 other friends from work believe I've do nothing wrong and also believe that she was overreacting to what I said. I don't feel as though I did anything wrong, but I can't help but wonder if I've been too self-absorbed to notice I was being a bad friend. Am I the asshole here? And #X200B. Edit. I want it to be clear that I have no problem with her dating white men. The problem I tried to discuss with her is that her reason for dating white men exclusively was problematic. Dating white men because you believe black men are always inappropriate and gross is problematic. Also, me suggesting dating outside of white people was more of a way for her to potentially have more luck finding men, and I never said it had to be black men. You are the asshole. It's not your place to tell someone what race, gender preferences they are allowed to have. Some black women only want a black man and won't think twice about a white man or any other race. Here you have a black woman with a preference for white men. Why is it any of your damn business? She may find the black people in her area not her taste. She's allowed to make that judgment call for herself. Her telling you what crappy luck she's having in the dating world wasn't a time to bring up racist agendas. She's a capable black woman who can make her own choices. Like any other race, she has a preference. With time they may change or they may not. She doesn't just have to stick to the chocolate ice cream dessert section. You are the asshole. You could have suggested she date men who are emotionally available. You could have suggested she date men that are mature enough for a committed relationship. But you associated the poor treatment Karis receives to the race of the men she prefers, which is bigoted and ultimately unhelpful. There are great BFs and horrible BFs of every race. You put Karis in an awkward position. It's no wonder she feels uncomfortable with you now. You are the asshole. This reminds me of those cringy TikToks of trans people saying if you won't date trans people you're transphobic. You can't just decide what race, gender or whatever someone can be attracted to. I'm a Hispanic woman and I too am only attracted to white men because that's just who I'm physically attracted to. No amount of someone telling me that it's problematic is going to change that fact. You are the asshole. She was talking about what bad luck she's had with dating and you automatically said she should just date other races. She has a preference and she's entitled to like whomever she wants. Her preferences are none of your business. It would be like telling your straight friend to date someone of the same gender. That's not what they like. There are black men who say the same thing about black women all of the time. She sounds like an idiot no doubt, but I don't know why you felt the need to call her out. You could have just said that she should expand her dating pool and look for someone emotionally available. If your preference is black men then that's your business. You don't need to push it on other people. You're the asshole for arguing about her preferred type of men. And clearly you have said other insensitive things to her that have upset her previously. The rest of the group sucks for feeding the drama and sharing private messages. Actually, everybody sucks but Karis. The race of the men she is attracted to is nobody's business. Personality type or personal habits? Maybe, i.e., stop going after random guys in bars, or something, but not appearance. No assholes here. I don't really view this as a confrontation. She expressed she was having trouble with men and you made a suggestion and then the conversation ended. While I don't think it's your place to judge her preferences, it doesn't sound like you really expressed that all that much. On the other hand, it sounds like she just wanted to vent and wasn't looking for a fix. Sometimes people don't want a solution and over text is generally a poor time to try and determine that. From her perspective, it's like kicking her while she's down. You are the asshole. People get to make any decision they like when it comes to who they date. Intimate relationships are so incredibly personal and not the place for misplaced concepts of equality. No one is obligated to allow someone access to their body and they can make that decision for any reason they like. To think otherwise violates principles of bodily autonomy. AITAH. For kicking my husband's sister out for leaving a fake pregnancy test in my bedroom? My 33 husband Adam, 36, came back from his month-long trip days ago. My in-laws live states away and my Sil, 20, was staying with me since she got kicked out of her dorm. Adam and I got back from the airport at 7 p.m. and my family came to visit. Adam went inside the bedroom and started unpacking while I was in the kitchen with my mother. I suddenly heard Adam shouting my name. He told me to come upstairs ASAP. He sounded very angry. I went to meet him in the bedroom and I saw him holding a positive pregnancy test in his hand. I was dumbfounded. He began questioning me saying he found it inside my sock drawer. He asked, "You gone, explain to me what the fuck this was doing there." I was speechless from my shock as I understood what this might have looked like to him. I said I had no idea, it wasn't mine and I never seen it before. He kept telling me to explain how it got there if I never seen it and it wasn't mine. My family heard the commotion and tried to intervene but Adam locked the door. I freaked out because I literally had no idea what was going on. Adam said he just wanted me to be honest. I said he had the right to be mad but I knew nothing about it and had no explanation. He said mad doesn't even begin to cover it, then suddenly started putting everything back in his bag saying he was going to stay with a friend till I call him up with an explanation. He unlocked the door and found my family waiting. His sister showed up asking what was going on, then started laughing asking, "So was it really positive or not?" I was stunned as she proceeded to say she planted the pregnancy test in the drawer as a prank and that everyone should calm down. She was like, "Bruh, chill, have you ever heard of fake pregnancy tests? They're pretty telling." I was livid. I screamed at her asking how she thought this was funny and that it was okay to humiliate me in front of my family. She tried to justify it saying it was her boyfriend's, who has ASPD by the way, idea to bring laughter to the atmosphere, but I told her she was no longer welcome at my home after what she did. Adam took a seat to calm down watching us argue as my mom got involved asking me take it easy. I insisted that my sister-in-law pack and leave right then and she started crying and apologizing saying she had nowhere to go, begging Adam to do something but he didn't. I called her an Uber and had her leave. Mill heard and started calling me, shaming me for kicking her daughter out like that. I told her what her daughter did and she still said my reaction was over the top as her daughter is being naive and as a kid acting recklessly. She said we're her family and I should consider taking her back, but I said I won't. Edit, I too was confused by Adam's reaction and have a feeling he was in on the prank too, based on how serious he was being. Mom thought the same thing and I wouldn't be surprised since A, he remained quiet when I argued with his sister, and B, he always does pranks with her and sees nothing wrong with her behavior. He actually thinks she's funny. I don't know if I'll ever be sure about him taking part in her prank. Edit, Adam and I struggle with infertility on his side because of his health issues, so that added to my anger since it seemed like his sister was being cruel and insensitive. Info. I'm distinctly uncomfortable with your husband's reaction. It's hard for me to focus on what your Sil did after reading how he treated you aggressively enough that your family came to intervene only for him to lock the door so they couldn't. That matters far more in terms of bad behavior than what your Sil did, though yes, that was asshole behavior. Could you seriously take a moment to consider whether you are okay in that house and in that relationship? Because I'd be really concerned for anyone I knew who told me this story. Not the asshole. Also, kicked out of her dorm room pretty much leads me to believe Sil isn't house-trained at all. To be honest, I'm more concerned with your hubby's reaction. Info. What am I missing here? Not the asshole. Saw the edit. I really hope, optimistically, that your husband was not in on the prank. Otherwise it just adds another layer of cruelty along with your SIL's actions. I'm sorry you're going no difficulties. Not the asshole. But I think your husband is an asshole as well. Did he get a vasectomy? Have you not had sex in the last 5 months? Why would a pregnancy test cause that kind of reaction? Does he lock you in rooms and scream at you when he's angry? He sounds a bit unstable. Why did your husband yell at you and then pack to leave for having a positive pregnancy test? This post doesn't make sense, so much info is missing. Sil should not have done that and I see why she was kicked out of her dorm. Not the asshole. But with the edit I would tell Adam to pack his fucking bag back up and go with his sister. Who needs this bullshit in their lives? Not the asshole. Whoever would even think for a second that was funny. Info. He was only gone for a month. It's typical to take pregnancy tests around the 6-8 weeks mark. Why was he so angry? Why was his reaction so intense? Did the two of you not have sex or something that would allow for a positive pregnancy test?